stories about water and urban places. This is Ideanthro. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ideanthro. Today, we are going to have a chat about an interesting bioretention system with Steph Brown. You might remember Steph from a previous episode where we had a good long chat about how you found your way into the stormwater industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
But today, Steph, you have found an interesting bioretention system, and we're going to have a chat about, I suppose, why you found it interesting, how you found it. But then is it fair to say you had some questions for me based on what you saw?
Yeah, absolutely. I was very curious and wanted to check it out with you.
Okay, cool. Why don't we start with the things you found interesting, and then we'll take it from there.
Sure. So for me, this bioretention system was one of the first ones that I've actually just walked past in an urban environment, and it's right around the corner from where I live. So it took me maybe 2 or 3 walk-bys to actually convince myself it was a bioretention system. And I think the reason for that is that it's so well integrated into the urban form. The plants aren't what I normally see in photos, guidelines. I didn't think that any of them came from the bioretention guidelines, plant spec. But that's one of the questions I wanted to ask Jack. And the vegetation cover was also massive, which again seems surprising because I know that some species, especially some plants and systems early in their days, can struggle with getting good uptake. And this system's about a year or 2 old.
Yeah, so do we need to take a wander to find this system, or is it hiding in plain sight?
It's actually right here.
It's this. It's what looks like it should be the planter box for this apartment building, right?
Yeah, exactly. And if we look, it just blends straight in with the garden bed right next to us as well.
Yeah, same species.
Same species, similar cover. And I mean, look, it's just exploding out, which to me was really, really cool and exciting from a stormwater point of view and from a plant lover point of view.
Yeah, I totally get why it took you a few goes walking past to be like, oh, right, that's, that is bioretention.
Yeah.
Because it's easy just to be like, oh, it's landscaping.
Yeah.
Fair enough, but yeah. All good. So, okay, so keep going. So there's that, you blend it in nicely, it's spilling out, it's really lush.
Yeah.
What else?
Well, then I got thinking, well, why are the plants so different here? Does that mean it's still working from a stormwater point of view if they're not the typical deemed to comply, guideline plant selection? And how is it getting such great cover? Because there's also, it's a really sandy filter media type. So that's why I thought, I'm pretty new at looking at systems. You look at them all the time.
Sure.
I'd really love your investigative point of view.
Okay, so let's start with plant type on here. My gut feeling here, so they're not species that you would find on the core list of performing bioretention species. And we need to step back and take a look at where that core list has come from to kind of work back into this question.
Yeah.
So the bioretention technical design guidelines essentially say at least 50% of the plants in a bioretention system should be these core, known to perform well bioretention species. And that comes from research that Monash Uni had done previously that says, based on the plants that they tested and the arrangement they tested, that if you have at least 50% cover of species that are known to perform well, so an example might be Carrick suppressor is known to perform really good nitrogen removal. If you have 50% cover of these known performers, then you should get treatment and removal of a standard like you would expect from the music models and from the testing. They're saying you don't need 100% cover. So the guidelines then essentially say, look, we recognize that not in every instance do we want, Lomandra, Juncus, Carricks as our species. In some instances, we might want something a little bit more aesthetic. Yeah. And so it's going, okay, let's put in 50% of the stuff that's core and known to perform well, and with the rest, do what you want to try and make it fit better. However, that is not what has happened here, because there's no Juncus, Carricks, Isolepsis in here at all. The other thing to bear in mind is that there has more recently been a little bit of testing of, coming again out of Monash, of some non-native kind of ornamental species to test their performance.
Right,
but I would say that the odds that they happen to be these species, given that we're in subtropical southeast Queensland and the testing was done in temperate Melbourne.
Yeah.
I reckon the odds of these being the species that have been tested is pretty low.
Do you remember any of those species?
Not off the top of my head. I may be able to track down a link to the correct.
Put them right here.
We're trying now. And given the way you've pointed, I've just put them straight over your face there. You did that to yourself. So even if you're going directly by the guideline, there's definitely reasons to go and put ornamentals in bioretention. It's definitely considered by the book. It might not be common because everyone's used to just putting in the lamandras and the carracks and that sort of thing.
What about 100% as I think we're seeing here?
So I can't say for sure whether it'll work or not, because here's the thing, like some species are better at treatment performance than others. So we can't be sure. This could be anywhere from it looks really nice and it'll just do something for hydrology because it's soaking up water and releasing it slowly, but nothing for pollutant removal, through to the other end of it where it could be doing all that stuff and pollutant removal.
Great.
And I just don't know.
Yeah.
To be absolutely sure, you'd want to go and test those species, but obviously that costs money. There is one other thing in the design guidelines, and there's some notes there about the structure of plants and how that has been seen to correlate with better performance. So things with with vigorous growth and vigorous dense root systems that get all through the media typically give better pollutant removal performance than say species that have very fine, very limited root structures or are very slow growing.
Yeah, I've actually had a bit of a chat with Sally about that as well, and talking about the fibrous root system being quite important, not only to, I think, nutrient uptake, but promoting really good microbiome, what do we call it?
Yeah, microbial life, right?
Microbial life, yeah.
Yeah, because realistically, when it comes to at least nitrogen removal, all the heavy lifting's being done by the microbial life, not by the plant. The plant's just like a substrate to facilitate it. So ultimately getting to my take, we can't know without testing these for sure. We could potentially rip some up and go for a dig and see what the root structure's like. That might give us a bit of an idea. It's not our site, so we're not going to destroy their landscaping. But the last thing that I'd finish on this is, I am quite confident in saying that any live plant is better than no plant.
Yes.
And given that we see all these bioretention systems that don't get taken care of and don't get looked after, I'd much prefer this looking all landscapey and it's being looked after by someone. As a side note, we saw them hand pulling weeds out of the garden bed before. I'd much prefer this and there's plants in it compared to down the back corner of a system and someone sprayed it out and now it's completely barren, because that definitely won't be working.
Yeah.
That's my take. Okay, so that's plants. What were the other questions?
What about the media? So this filter media.
Sandy as?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got some photos.
I took a shot. I'll put the shot over now. Really, really, really sandy.
Yeah, so again, not a filter media expert, but just from understanding of plants and growing media, I would have assumed that they'd struggle to thrive the way they are with such a sandy filter media content. What's your take?
I'm on the same page as you there. It wasn't apparent from looking at it, but if I had to make a guess, I'd say that they're being irrigated. You know, it's a high profile apartment building. You look at, we can look at the rest of the landscaping around here, and they're clearly trying to sell a high profile site.
Yeah.
My gut feeling is they wouldn't want to be taking any risk of these drying out and not looking good. And my guess is that they're irrigating them. The one little suggestion I have to back that up is the fact that there's a bromeliad in here, and it hasn't rained for a few days now, and it's full of water. So that suggests to me that there's there might be a sprinkler in there or some hidden spray irrigation that's filling up that bromeliad.
Yeah.
I would be really surprised if these ornamentals, oh no, I should say that. The big one that you were talking about really liking off camera before, I've seen that grow in systems where I'm confident there's no irrigation. It's pretty hardy.
Yeah.
So there is a chance that they're not being irrigated, but then again, for some of the others, I'm like, you know, if you made me bet on it, I think they're being irrigated because it's really, it's a really sandy environment.
Yeah. So there's about 4 or 5 species in here.
Yep.
So for those who are watching, we've got with philodendron here.
Yep.
Bromeliad. I think this might be a false cardamom. Or
it looks
similar.
something gingery, or it's
in
from
the
that
ginger family.
Yep.
And then a couple of others at the back as well. But there seems to be all species that they've put in here seem to be doing really well.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And they match with the rest of the landscaping.
Yeah.
So.
We had a walk around and could see each of these species being used elsewhere as well.
Well, and it matches particularly well with the streetscape landscaping here, and that's a palette that Brisbane City Council use a lot. And you actually, even if you walk like off this site and walk down like Ipswich Road and some of the other nearby sites, these are all understory species that BCC uses in this area.
Yeah, okay.
So my guess is that they've picked up that planting palette for this, because it's a little bit different to some of the stuff. Once we get inside there, it changed a little bit. So that's two of the questions. Is there a third?
Yeah, and I think the third question for me is, what other residential apartments have you seen where they've got bioretention systems kind of on display or near the streetscape?
I can't think of any that's done it exactly like this, although I can definitely remember walking past systems and being like, hey, that could be, or walking past sites and being like, hey, that could be a bioretention, because you could get the roof water down into here, and because it's a raised bed, you could easily get the underdrain out. Like, it's certainly an opportunity. I can't off the top of my head think of one though, where I'm like, yeah, you could go to that one and compare and contrast. What I have seen done nicely in this sort of development, where you've got like multi-level residential and the bottom level is kind of commercial and eatery and that sort of thing, is I've seen sites like that, and I'm thinking of a site in Sydney, do really nicely integrated kind of streetscape, but it's more internal road, streetscape bioretention pods.
Yeah.
And they found ways to get the roof water into that and everything. So I've certainly seen apartment sites do it well, but I haven't necessarily seen them do it like this.
Yeah, okay.
It's cool. Well, look, thank you, Steph, for bringing me out and showing me this site, because I'm definitely keen to see more variety of plants used in bioretention, just stuff that fits better with the landscaping. So it's really nice to come out and see this site. It'll be super interesting to see how it evolves. So thank you.
Thank you, Jack. It's been great to get you out here.
No dramas. We'll see you later. Before you go, our best episodes come from your questions. This knowledge base, these discussions that are Ideanthro, improve with your contribution. So if there's a topic, an idea, a concept that you would like us to explore, come and ask us. You know where to find us. www.ideanthro.com/contact. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and that place you get your good podcasts from. You know where to find us. We look forward to hearing from you. We'll see you soon.